Well, Jim, here we are. A big review. I have to say, I have not seen a demand for a Jim Cornette review video since maybe the CM Punk press scrum. Like maybe that night. But everyone's talking about Elimination Chamber, the things coming out of it. And we have a lot to say, even maybe some audio from their scrum to play. But
there's their crummy scrum.
Let's go to the Elimination Chamber.
Well, no, I don't want to go to the chamber. I'll stay here and talk about the one they just had. I don't want to get locked up in that thing, for heaven's sake. It looks like it might be dangerous. Brian, now you've built up this anticipation, and here's the thing. I don't know whether it's because I'm getting older and mellower, or whether it's... Yeah, actually, I think I do know. Instead of being angry and mad, or instead of crying, it is to laugh. I must giggle a bit at what is going on with the WWE these days, and not laughing in a derisive fashion, but it's like they're making a fucking fortune. They're making a ridiculous, ludicrous, titty-diculous amounts of money. And they're drawing incredible crowds, and they're just, and I'm not going to rip this show apart, although the preface may seem like it. But when you think about it, that's why I'm laughing. I can't tear this down. I can't, crusade against this. This is by far from the best wrestling that I've ever seen in my life. But it's ridiculous. They're making a fucking fortune. They just had a pay-per-view, a premium live event. However, you paid in some respect a pittance or more to get this thing in your home with whatever streaming service or television service or whatever around the world it's being transmitted to. You paid something for a 4.5-hour show with 4 matches. There's sometimes there's 20, 25 minutes in between matches. Remember when the pay-per-views didn't have commercials, Brian, back in those halcyon days of yore? Back when the knights stuck each other with Lancelots or whatever.
Back when it seemed like a crazy idea to have commercials, to even sell commercial spots during a pay-per-view event.
Yes, but also not even that, just the amount of stuff they have sold us a 4.5-hour show, or I'm sorry, 3.5-hour show with 4 matches, where a good portion of that show is them selling us other shit that obviously people are buying, whether it be merchandise or the next pay-per-view or the goddamn immersive experience of we're just going to take you to Connecticut and tie ropes around your ankles and drag you through the office, and we'll pay for that, whatever it is. And it's amazing. And so I can't crusade as vehemently as normal because this is fucking ridiculous. I think they're making more money than the U.S. Mint.
Well, the problem is they're making lots of money, then they bonus themselves lots of money, and then they make $6 million in profit.
Well, yes, and somehow it's still the only thing that trickles down to the common workforce, the workers, Brian. The only thing that trickles down is the piss from the executive washroom. But it's still, the point is they are making this amount of people spend this incredible amount of money. The house shows, the streaming, the merchandise, the whatever the fuck they're selling. They're selling every goddamn thing. And they had 38,493 people. I'm going to call it the Sky Dome. I don't know who Rogers is, unless it was Buddy Rogers. Fuck him. We're going to call it the Toronto Sky Dome like God intended. But almost 40,000 fucking people there for the pay-per-view that used to be the one in between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. So they only drew 40,000. Like a piss hole in a snowbank, huh? Can you tell I'm just dumbfounded for once. Cornette at a loss for words. Is that the longest statement you've ever heard from somebody at a loss for words?
I guess so. I mean, it was a big spectacle, and there was a lot going on, and they were able to build the anticipation. They didn't give away what people were really wanting to see until the very end of the night. And it seemed like everyone there was, you keep bringing up, I feel like every time you bring it up, they take a match off. It was like, oh, they only had 6 matches. Then it was, there were only 5 matches on this pay-per-view. 4 matches now. We're going back like 100 years. We're going to have a 2-match show coming up pretty soon.
Well, and I bet it'll set a record. They just say, and these 5 guys or 10 guys or whatever are going to go 3 hours.
They could do it with 1 match. If they just did a Royal Rumble by itself in America, not like, in Saudi Arabia where people have to go. But if they did it here, I think that 1 match could sell out. Like I don't know, what do I want to say? Arena, stadium, definitely an arena. I don't know about a stadium, but maybe.
I think they need to do a show in the Grand Canyon and see if scale it to where the most expensive seats are right at the fucking, what do they call the bottom of the canyon? Right at the bottom of the canyon. And then you got the general admission seats that way up at the top of the canyon.
How come no one's done the Sphere yet in Las Vegas? Have you seen like the videos and the pictures of that place?
No, well, I saw some type of demonstration video, but the UFC did it, one show, and I haven't seen any type of visual from that, but apparently Dana White said that is it's the most expensive. Again, do you call it an arena or a theater or a facility or what? A most expensive one probably in the world to run, and they just did it to do it because they didn't really make that much money on this gate. It was $15 million or whatever. So I don't know if they're being cost conscious over at TKO these days after Dana did that. I don't know if they want to have Seth freaking Rollins come out and everybody, whoa, in a fucking complete circle like Rollins at the planetarium. Maybe they could get Pink Floyd back together for that, though, at the Sphere.
Oh, I don't think they're getting Pink Floyd back together. Maybe they could play Pompeii. Or wrestle at Pompeii.
They could pay who?
Pompeii.
Pay Pompeii?
Pompeii.
Pay for play? Now, that's illegal.
That's payola.
That's right. Boy, ask Alan Freed. All right, let's talk about the Elimination Chamber. Well,
they could have taken down Dick Clark, but Dick Clark was just so nice and all-American, and Alan Freed was that bad Alan Freed, and they took him down, and he died a few years later. And Dick Clark had a wonderful career.
Dick Clark was still on TV 3 years after he died. But anyway, so they did the Women's Elimination Chamber on March the 1st there, bringing in the Ides of March. Alexa Bliss versus Roxanne Perez versus Bayley versus Bianca versus Liv Morgan versus Naomi was the lineup there. And it helped me out at the start of this. The winner of the Women's Elimination Chamber, since it's the women's version of the men's chamber, the winner of the women's gets to pick which women's champion they want to face, right? Except,
well, Charlotte.
I thought the Rumble was the
right. They get
so they got to
they get the other.
Well, they get this. So therein lies part of this problem.
What?
Because they've not only got 2 men's titles, they got 2 women's titles. It was Royal Rumble winner gets a shot at the champion at WrestleMania. Everybody had a grip on that. Well, then there's 2 titles, and there's the men's and the Elimination Chamber. But now there's the women's, but there's 2 women's. So now there's the men's and women's. And it gets exponentially harder to keep straight exactly which of the cataclysmic confrontations that we are expected to consume and pay for the privilege, Brian. So forgive me my indignation.
I think you're the only one having the problem, though. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's the same thing as the Cody one later on. The winner gets Cody. The winner of this gets I mean, they made it out like it's the winner of Rhea versus Io, but obviously no one expects Io to beat Rhea.
Well, that's another thing that confused the issue when it came out. When is Rhea and Io? Io, not Io.
Io.
now. We ain't heard nothing yet.
She's wrestling Rio, not Rio, Io.
Rio,
Stop,
is Rio back? Rio.
I didn't even say Rio. I said Rio. And listen,
her name is Rio, and she dances in the ring.
I believe they're wrestling tonight as we speak.
Well, see, again, so goddamn it, so... And then, think about this now. Then Charlotte said she was going to go to goddamn NXT and check their champion out, too, which further complicated the whole... I'm just saying, people have lives. I understand some people impregnate other people and have children. You can't keep.
Where have you heard about this? Shit. Where have you heard about this?
I saw it on TV the other night on the news. This woman had a kid. Anyway, so, and also in this case, I'm sorry, I have to be true to my morals and my principles. And it's not just because it's the women. It could be the men. The Royal Rumble, Hell in a Cell, every other great goddamn gimmick match that is the centerpiece of every pay-per-view throughout the year. You have to see one before you get to see one. And it's the same as whether it's women or whether it's okay. Now we got our 6 guys in the main event. We got the Punks and the Cenas and the Zabada. Now let's get the next 6 and put them on before. Does that make sense to you, Brian?
Well, again, there was a 2-match buffer, and in WWE, 2 matches means 3 hours. So.
But no, it's the same fucking crowd. And you're watching the same fucking show. It's not even a goddamn like a double feature in the movie where they come to some conclusion of the first issue and then go on in a different direction, possibly in the same genre, but definitely with different actors and fucking script writers. So anyway, and also, if it's the most dangerous match in the world, which we are led to believe at various times, Elimination Chamber, Hell in a Cell, Royal Rumble, a party at Daddy Diddy's house, all these things, the most dangerous things in the world. And before we see these fucking giant, jacked up genetic freaks like Drew McIntyre doing it, we're seeing a bunch of 125-pound girls do the same thing. So I'm not sure how it helps anybody. But nevertheless, we press on. I'm just...
Men, we must move on. We can't let this stop us here.
We're going to charge up Liv Morgan Hill and plant our flag at Mount Vulva. So the match was almost ready to start. What are you laughing at?
This took a turn, ladies and gentlemen. I'm no longer with this army here. I don't know what happened.
Oh, you're playing. You're fighting for the other side. Is that?
I don't know what hill and planting and sticking and whatever you're doing over there. It doesn't necessarily sound like it's a pleasant activity for anyone. But back to the match.
Well. Yes, so speaking of unpleasant activities, let's get back to the match. Because it was about to start.
It didn't even start yet.
It was about to start at about 20 minutes into this show. By the time they got in the ring, it was about to start when suddenly more music played. And here came Jade Cargill. We haven't seen her since... I don't know when. When will I see you again? When will we share precious moments? Are we in love or just friends? Oh. So Liv figured they weren't friends and she was just shaking like a dog shitting peach seeds over this whole thing. Because here came Jade. And Jade came into the ring and Liv was begging off and suddenly Jade jumped Naomi and just beat the teetotal dog shit out of her. Dog shit, I say, Andy. And Bianca, the friend and confidant, but former partner, she's in the middle of this triangle of violence. She was in the pod, as they say. They're the pod people, Brian. They've come for us. She's freaking, I mean, she needs to have an Academy Award. Now, do they do Best Silent Movie Performance? Because you couldn't hear her, but boy, she was emoting.
Yeah, she was a very sad mime. She was a very sad mime.
Very sad mime. Oh, she emoted all over herself. And the referees got Jade off, and Jade slammed the door on Naomi's head and stalked out in a huff, as they say. That's what Vince said about me one time when I was stalked out in a huff. And Naomi was stretched out or stretchered out. She was stretched out, and then they stretchered her out, which is the past tense of stretchering. They carried her out. So then, before we go any further with this contest, now that's why everybody's saying that Jade has attacked Naomi because Naomi was behind. She was the one that did the phantom injury to Jade when Jade got hurt from something. We still don't know what the fuck was going on there. And so now she has come back to get revenge, and Bianca was unaware of this whole thing because Naomi was just trying to insinuate herself in that spot. And they obviously knew they were doing this because they conveniently switched the one set of the women's tag team titles just last week. So this all comes together here. Naomi has been fingered publicly.
Okay, again, let's
What?
Let's watch the way we say things here.
Well, the blame has been put squarely on her by the perpetratee, Jade Cargill, that Naomi was the perpetrator.
In the last several weeks, have Liv and Raquel denied that it was them? I don't recall. I know they've wrestled Bianca and Naomi, and, you know, Liv and Raquel are heels, so they kind of act like heels. But have they said, like, that wasn't us?
Well, I don't really know what their fucking story is because I haven't asked them about it. But
I don't know if you've
at the same time, I would think that the victim would certainly know who perpetrated their perpetratees.
Jade was all in black, whatever that still means in this day and age, whether you wear all white or all black, whether you're a heel or babyface.
Has it been on an album cover lately?
What do you think about doing this to start off the match, to start off the night? What do you think about doing this kind of angle, this kind of payoff to something? Or at least, in part, we still don't know the story.
Well, this isn't the payoff. This is a bump in the road, a speed bump.
That's right. But what do you think about doing it so early in the show, right to start?
Well, I liked it because it shortened up the ladies' contest. And nobody, I think of anybody in this, thought that Naomi was going to be the winner, and the feisty underdog Roxanne Perez probably wouldn't have a lot of the big Vegas money on her because she's still new. But it made an impression, and also at the same time, you've got the goddamn Elimination Chamber. How was Jade supposed to come out and do a cane thing and rip the door off and get once they'd got started and all that shit? You know, I like they kind of started it off with a bang, to answer your question. But having said that, we were left with Liv and Bianca and Roxanne and Bayley and Alexa. They're all baby faces except for Liv. Liv has grown on me, Brian, like a tumor. Just taking over my goddamn lymph nodes, and now it's huge now.
Maybe more of a benign tumor. Why do you have to go all the way over there?
Well, she may be benign, or, you know, we might have to take a little biopsy of her. I know where I could get some DNA.
I don't know what the hell is going on with you today, but you got to stop with this stuff. But I agree with you. She has become one.
No, you do? We should take a
No,
biopsy.
I don't agree with you on your weirdo stuff. I agree with you on Liv Morgan's become one of my favorite workers in the business because it's not just the wrestling. It's you say, you know, earlier Bianca should have won the Academy Award for flipping out in the pod, and that was really something. Again, not to that level and was a minor thing, but Liv selling as Jade was coming out there, I thought was tremendous. She does all these little things really well, and, you know, she's pretty good in the ring, too.
Oh, and here's the thing. I agree with everything except I still don't look forward to seeing Liv Morgan matches for the sake of it, right? It's not like the Tony Khan mentality. I bet Liv Morgan and Momo Watanabe could
Hey,
be a dream match or whatever.
you did it.
Liv, was that really it? I was taking a
I
stab.
think you got it.
Son of a bitch. What did I say now? You can play it back for me later. Liv Morgan is she was a personality on the women's roster, but then the whole thing with Dominic and etc. I think I mentioned before to you, slingshotted her, and she was interacting with the top guys as well in the mix there, just like it did for Rhea, and she's taken it and run with it as a personality, as the facial expressions and the way she has inserted herself into, everybody's fucking business, and the heel and the promo, that has grown on me. So as a overall personality, she's a lot more valuable now than she was a couple of years ago, which a lot of these guys and girls can say that they are because of the change in the winds that change direction.
It's a weird statement to make, but in a lot of ways, one of the best things to happen to women's wrestling in WWE in terms of getting over on a main event level has been Dominic Mysterio. The mommy and Dominic stuff, that blew up.
Yeah.
And it carried on to the Liv stuff, and that's turned into its own thing. If you really think about it, I mean, he works ringside those matches like an old manager in a lot of ways.
You know what? We ought to give him like the Fabulous Moolah Award for the person who's done the most for women's wrestling. And but now here's the thing: Bayley was the only person above 5'3" in this match, right? At this point,
Well, Bianca.
and okay, Bianca, I'll give 5'6". Is she 5'6"?
I'll say at least that, so I'm okay with that.
Okay. Well, but. And again, you have Bianca pretty much was the person that you would think was going to win this if Liv Morgan didn't, from the way that they have been presented on television. But besides that, it's the fucking, I'm seeing the same kind of matches I'm going to see later on. And we'll talk about when we do the review of the men's match, how that it can't help but be a collection of moves back and forth and stunts that are set up rather than any kind of flow of the art of having a wrestling match that the top guys that are tied up in the main event match would be so good at. When it becomes every man for himself in a Royal Rumble or a Battle Royal, okay, but every man for himself in this thing where they don't even have any room to fucking get out of there for a minute. And it's just back. It's more stunt show than wrestling match to me, because you just reach the point where, what the fuck are we doing here? It looks like a game show set. So then I see one of these with the women before I see the one with the guys that I'm all interested in to find out who's going to fuck who around. But having said that, Bianca and Liv were the last two. Surprise, surprise. And Bianca hit her finish. Boom. 1, 2, 3.
What'd you think of the whip spot with Bianca's braid?
Oh, well, and I was going to, with not only that, but did you see the picture that, well, I don't think I follow Liv Morgan on the Twitter, maybe it was Instagram, but somebody tweeted it that besides the...
Maybe it was your burner.
Now, say again?
I said maybe it was your burner account. You follow Liv Morgan.
Oh, I forgot that. That's the extra one that the kids have to
That's right.
keep everything quiet. Okay. But no, at one point Bianca whipped her with that. What does she have in that hair braid, or holding the end of that hair braid together? But she whipped Liv Morgan across the back, and she had a big fucking welt like a goddamn country whipping match. But also Liv was showing the back of her arm was bruised all over the place, and again, that's it's special effects, but that doesn't mean that it's all goddamn, styrofoam that looks like plexiglass and metal framework and lights hanging and everything. All that shit can fuck you up. So point being is that and again, that's why it's rough as shit. But still, the girls survived. So how much sympathy can I have for Cena and McIntyre and Rollins and the gang? But nevertheless, after this contest was over with, Bianca was in the entranceway and Rhea comes out and confronts her. And there's two baby faces. Now, they're both stars. But then, as I've asked you before, Io Sky wanders out to complicate the issue and looks like a kid asking for an autograph next to Bianca and Rhea. So what is this match supposed to fucking be?
Well, let me ask you, too. You said they're both baby faces. Do you think it's a given that Bianca wasn't involved with Naomi and jumping Jade or anything?
Well, then wouldn't Jade have been up in fucking Bianca's face trying to kick in the goddamn plexiglass going, motherfucker, I'll get you too. Get out of here. Or get out here.
She kind of tortured her, making her sit there and watch her best friend get the shit kicked out of her.
Well, she just happened to be there. I mean, if two people attacked you, are you going to murder one and then not even fucking acknowledge the other one that's watching out the window?
No, I would murder them right in the middle of the squared circle in front of 35,000 people. That's what I would do.
Well, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah. In the course of any kind of logic, a forethought.
Because, I mean, that's the other thing. If they're going to do Rhea versus Bianca at WrestleMania, and this whole Jade Naomi thing is going to play out, just so happens it's WrestleMania time. Something has to, you would think there'd be some sort of resolution or some sort of bump in the road there.
Well, but would you be doing a major heel turn of a well-established babyface right at this particular point?
No, I wouldn't.
So I think that Jade got Naomi because Naomi orchestrated this thing to fucking become one half the tag team champions and get in good. And I think they thought of that right after Jade got hurt, however she got hurt.
Because Jade came out and acted like a heel, was dressed in all black, stormed off, didn't even acknowledge Bianca. But she's going to be the babyface? Because she kicked the shit out of Naomi, who's never been anything but the babyface. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, actually. And I like the match.
Well,
I just want to say I like the match. I thought
she'll blame Naomi at least.
I thought Liv Morgan was great. I thought Roxanne Perez was really good too, and really good match.
Roxanne!
Oh God!
You don't have to win the Elimination Chamber to be in our hearts. Just be as cute as you are.
Okay, yeah, that song took a weird turn there. I hope she stays in developmental if it means no more of that.
Well, hey, come on. Speaking of developmental, can we get a petition up to send Candy LaRue back for a little more seasoning? The member of the Mr. and Mrs. Blandings, the dream couple. Can you imagine how many people are under contract on the WWE roster that weren't on this premium live event and Candy LaRue is featured? What kind of pictures might they have her and her hubby, Mr. Blandings? Pictures of Shawn Michaels with do they have goats in San Antonio, or what would it be, an armadillo that he was having unnatural carnal knowledge of that keeps them in this system with no look, no size, no physique, no charisma, no promo, indie talent that do indie moves, except she's not really able to do a lot of the indie moves because she looks like the girl that couldn't make the cut on a fucking junior high cheerleading fucking squad. Next to these goddamn pole vaulters and snowmobile fucking champions that they recruit. Did I say what the match was?
You have not said anything except put down Candice LaRue. Or LeRae. Her name's not LaRue. Her name's
What?
Candice LeRae.
Well, now you've changed your story. See, in an instant. I don't know what you're talking about now.
They should make her the sister of Johnny LaRue. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll tell you what, and Lash LaRue would like to speak to you. So it was the refrigerator, herself, Nia Jax, and Candy LaRue against Trish Stratus and Tiffy Stratton. Said the Trish and Tiffy, they could almost replace like Thelma Todd and fucking Elvira Snodgrass as a great team. And this is the...
Well, what movie was that? I missed that movie.
This was the second match
one of those ones Louis B. Mayer kept locked away.
Well, it's because Joe Skank gave him a lot of trouble over that kind of stuff. This was the second match on the big event here. The bell rang for it 1 hour and 3 minutes into the show, and it was the second girls match in a row. And Tiffy is over, and Trish looks great for her age, but in all seriousness, ladies and gentlemen, we've already had, couldn't we have worked in just a single men's match, just as a palate cleanser in between in this, because there was about an hour and a half of dead time in this show. But anyway, Trish is great. Again, at her, and it's not nice to quote a woman's age, but she's been around a while, so she's got to be more senior than most of the ladies on the roster. But she did a great job from what that I looked up and saw, and finally did a bulldog off the top rope on the refrigerator, and then Candy tried a moonsault somehow. Trish was covering Fridge, and Candy thought the best way to break that up would be to moonsault both of them with her partner on the bottom, but she missed it anyway when Trish moved, and she just landed on her partner. And then Trish tagged Tiffy. God, say that a couple times without spitting. Trish tagged Tiffy, and Tiffy moonsaulted the Fridge. Boom, 1, 2, 3. In about 12 minutes, and how could you ask for more? I certainly wouldn't. What about you, Brian?
There were only 4 matches, so there was only one match to skip, to go outside and smoke a joint, and that was this match. I'm sure it was just wonderful. Trish Stratus looks great. I don't know what else I could say about this match.
I've heard that. I've heard that said.
I did see a little bit of this match. I will, before I went outside, I will say one other thing. Tiffany Stratton's really good. If you just watch her moving around in the ring, it's not the usual clumsy way. Way too many girls in both companies move around.
Well, and some parts of her move in different ways than others sometimes. She's going in both directions at once. That's especially nice. So, who is Travis Scott, and why do we care?
Travis Scott is a musician, and
allegedly,
he's a musician who's fairly big with a younger crowd. He's a producer too. And, it's kind of like Kendrick Lamar at the Super Bowl, as opposed to like years past where it was someone who someone who was more of a legacy artist. If you were a fan of his, it was a really big deal. If you weren't, you thought it was the worst thing ever. And with Travis Scott, I guess if you're a fan of his, this is amazing. However, to everyone else, I'll save my Travis Scott thoughts for later, I think.
All right. Well, they introduced him. That he's here, and we'll talk more about him later because he ain't leaving. And who is Poppy?
I must have missed this on the show. I don't know who you're talking about.
Poppy did the official theme song for this fucking...
I did see that. Yeah, that's the other thing. WWE, like I always say, if you want to go to the top of WWE right now, become famous doing something else. Because they will let anyone in there, and they embrace any level of celebrity. Because there are people, like I said, everything is kind of... Because there's no 3-channel system. There's no record labels controlling radio, which is the only way you can hear music. There's none of these things. Everything's segmented a whole lot more. So I guess this guy has fans, but I said it to someone earlier. I never saw like more celebrities introduced to no pop.
Well, now wait a minute. Is Poppy a girl or a guy?
I thought they showed a guy in the crowd, or am I thinking of a different guy they showed?
No, they showed Travis Scott is in the. I'm pretty sure he's a guy.
No, not him. There was someone
Awful,
else.
ugly fucking girl. But then they had a graphic that said they wanted to thank Poppy.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the celebrity in the crowd. I don't know what that.
Well, no. Then I haven't got to them yet. Then they introduced a bunch of celebrities on shows on Netflix that I've never fucking heard of because I've only got Netflix for Raw and I've never watched anything else on Netflix. But Poppy remains a mystery.
There's some stuff for you to watch on Netflix you may like. You know what I just watched the other day? There was a 4-part documentary show about, in the 90s, Pepsi did a campaign where you can get Pepsi points. You know, you could redeem t-shirts or sunglasses. And in the commercial, they had a fucking fighter jet for 7 million points, and it had no disclaimer. And this kid convinced this investor to go in with him, and they got the points, and Pepsi wouldn't honor it. So they sued Pepsi, and then Michael Avenatti got involved. And this is like in the 90s. This is a long time ago. It's a crazy, fun story. You may like that.
Well, now, how much does a fighter jet cost?
About $36 million.
So, well, they should have made that significantly more points then, shouldn't they? I wonder, is Hilton Honors doing the same thing? Because I got a card.
Do your points expire? You haven't been in a hotel in a while.
Well, no, but members of my family have been at absolutely gratis. That means you pay nothing. And I continue to know the points do not expire by the time I've rolled over with them anyway. Roll over Beethoven. Anyway, let's get back to the pay-per-view here. After all these people, do you remember one of the stories that Bruce Pritchard has told that's actually factual is I would be telling a lie if I remembered which WrestleMania it was, but one of them, before I joined the company, they had the chance to have Joe Walsh, the Eagles, Joe Walsh, the James Gangs, Joe Walsh, play at WrestleMania, and Vince had never fucking heard of him. And now they've got people down the goddamn block on their street haven't heard of him. And at least he could have played goddamn Rocky Mountain Way.
I remember reading something from Heyman years and years and years ago talking about when he worked for the AWA and just how out of touch Vern was. And Heyman's like, we're doing something in New Jersey. We should get like Bon Jovi or something. And Vern was like, how about Jerry Vale? I think Jerry Vale's from Jersey.
I think he did. God.
And so
I'm sorry. I call a Heyman. I call a Heyman. Wait a minute. Hold on here.
Why? You don't think Vern Gagne would advocate for
Paul.
Jerry Vale? Oh, come on.
Love that, Paul. Anyway, back to this show. So, the big rock package that makes him look like the goddamn most known human being in the history of the universe. He's the most followed American man in the world. How many agencies are on his trail? He's on every talk show, the highlights of him doing this and being there and all that type of thing. And the point where he loves being the final boss. And old Ari Emanuel, that was a series of movies in the 70s, Emmanuel, but she looked nothing like him. But anyway, did you enjoy the self-gratification package afforded to the final boss there as a member of the board of directors and the most famous human being on the planet, taking over for Jesus in second place?
Yeah, it's ridiculous, but it's weird. I expect it, but when you're watching it, you're just trying to understand how it fits into the context of the show. He's a heel, so is this propaganda that he has produced?
He's a heel that's the most popular son of a bitch in Hollywood.
So that's my point. Why would you show the video the way it was framed? that way you made him a big baby face. Is the idea that because he's in charge producing these videos about himself?
Well,
because then the commentators all put him over there. There isn't like a commentator like, "Oh, The Rock's disgusting." Like that's not happening.
And he talks bad of it. Said we had syphilis. Here's the thing: is if this was any normal mindset used in any other normal business, I think having one of the most famous human beings on the planet now, we can agree on that.
Absolutely.
To be on the company's board of directors, to be the public face of the company when they go on Jimmy Kimmel and they can talk about it along with their other projects, in the WWE and blah, 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 all that's wonderful. And that would have been that was worth $30 million to them at their fucking, level of income these days.
Plus bonuses.
But what he's done to turn heel is because he still wants to perform and he still wants to be on the show. And he still, who knows how true it is, Brian, your aspersions that you cast that he was trying to revive his fucking image or showbiz career or whatever after people are screaming that he pisses in bottles, blah, blah, blah. But those two things, and I've always said he was a great performer. Lately, he's seeming to go out somewhat unprepared or, as Mama Cornette used to say on some of these promos, he protests too much. He tries to get the point over so much he's repeating himself. Point being, I think it cross purposes for him to be a heel on the actual program that drops in once every blue moon for the biggest show ever, instead of being the babyface ambassador and board member and face of the company that he could be every place all year long. Do you smell what I'm cooking, Brian?
See, that's the problem with these scrums, and we'll talk about the latest one later on, and he did the one the other day. He shouldn't be in a rush for a victory lap. Not to say he doesn't deserve it when there's big success, but how does that help when you see the nice guy Dwayne Johnson performance right after you saw him as the most diabolical heel there is?
Yeah.
To me, it's counterproductive. And again, if we're doing with the whole thing where kayfabe's completely dead, the only things that matter aren't even what happened on the show, just what happens in individual matches, and then everything else can break kayfabe, that's an interesting road to go down. I guess maybe it's just him going down that road, but we'll see.
That dusty road. Alrighty, up next was the star-crossed lovers that are Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. As the history package reminds us, they've turned on and rejoined each other more than Liz Taylor and Richard Burton.
I thought they may go with this last, because when they did the Rock video, I was like, oh, are they going right into the main event now? And then they're going to do the unsanctioned match after the show? That'd be interesting, but obviously they didn't.
Well, and see, how you going to follow the final boss? That's why the final is before boss. See, that's very important to remember, Brian.
I'm the last boss.
Well, but if you're the last boss on the left and he's the final boss on the right, then which one gets their mail first? See? Think about that.
The one who could throw knives. I'll win.
Well, now you have knives, but how good are you at throwing them when the other motherfucker is running away from them?
I have no comment. In fact, let me say the opposite. I have no skills whatsoever. If anything happens, it's pure luck. I have no idea what I'm doing. I just was trying to defend myself.
The U.S. District Court for Northern New Jersey is hereby put on notice that Brian Last's knife-throwing skills are a deadly weapon.
Come on. I throw knives like I play piano. No, I can't.
Oh, okay. Well, you're getting off then. You don't have to worry. All right. Anyway, Sami Zayn and I started to say Sami Owens and Kevin Zayn. Sami and Kevin. The ring announcer, by the way, is ridiculous. The hairdo is ludicrous. She forces everything. The voice is highly put on and unnatural. And we need old Samantha Stevens back, or Samantha Irwin. We need Sam back.
I don't think she's coming back. It's unfortunate. And, she was kind of, a part of the whole winning team, it felt like, and she just didn't want to do it. And I don't think she's going to be coming back. Especially, she's married to Ricochet.
Oh, well, then she ought to bounce back. So, okay.
God damn it.
Think about that now.
That's brilliant. Brilliant.
So Sammy and Kevin is what we were trying to talk about. And I said right at the start, I jotted this down, my observation. I said these two are either going to have a great wrestling match or an outlaw garbage match stunt show. And it's Canada, so people are going to love it either way. But I'm wondering, can they help themselves from being too indie and try to have that? Because they're both great workers athletically in their own way. Neither one of them looks like they ought to be able to jog their memory. Zayn looks like he went to give blood and forgot to say when, and Owens looks like he ate Zayn. But they can they can work.
When I watched this match, my big thought was, this match is Jim Cornette's nightmare every night in like 2009. Right here,
well, and that's
match.
the thing. That's the thing. They were in front of 800 people in a goddamn rec center somewhere doing this shit 15 years ago. And they've got a story behind them. And they got that wicked-ass pile driver that Owens does and that he's done on Sammy. And Sammy can sell his ass off and exhibit pain and get sympathy. And they can, I'm not saying go back to the, 1975 Harley race pattern and, then one headbutt to the table. They could put a couple of their tricks, as the kids say, their tricks in. But in Canada, the people, as I said, are going to love it either way, but that's because they're into both these guys. But they went in the other direction of the athletic contest between two bitter former friends, now blood enemies. And instead they said, we're going to do every indie wrestling thing that we've ever liked, that we've seen or done before. Now we get to do it on the big screen. They were whacking each other with chairs, multiple chairs in the ring in the first 2 minutes of the fucking match after fighting on the floor. And then they got a hockey stick and they pulled out a table. And again, I'm not picking this apart with the vehemence that I sometimes would have, because once again, there's 40,000 people there and it's Canada and they're Canadians and they're loving it. And a lot of these people now think that is what wrestling is, or that's supposed to be involved in a wrestling match, is all this barrage of shit. And at least these guys do it well. I mean, it's like, is that like kind of like a parent praising their kid's poop? Oh, look at he poops so good. It's still shit, but they do it better than the fucking delinquent kids down the street whose parents didn't teach them to poop properly. And they're pooping out on the porch. Brian, you've had that problem with your kids, haven't you? Not pooping on the porch, but having better poop than the kids down the street that are pooping on the porch.
I think it may be a Southern thing.
Well, must be because of the weather. And I've enjoyed Owens lately personality-wise. I thought it was hokey when they were doing that thing with him where he would just flip out and want to fight and start screaming like a maniac, at the drop of a hat. And I think he did too, thought it was hokey because he was doing it in a hokey way. But now he's insidious and he feels wronged in the whole thing. It's wonderful, but God damn it, they go through the crowd. They go into the back of the arena. And Sammy throws Owens through not one but two tables, one at a time. Set up his, concession stand areas. And then they get back to the ring and Owens pushes Sammy off the top rope, flipping through two tables stacked on top of each other to the floor. And then they wipe the referee out. But Owens hits the stunner and gets the cover. The second referee slides in and it gets a 2 count. And so Owens levels referee number 2. And number 3 comes in. And at that point, Kevin's bringing in another table, and there's another chair shot, and it's dragging because it's all stunts. They're going from stunt to stunt. And to me, part of the thing that made the wild furniture brawl of the territory days more exciting, if you watch the old videos on YouTube, again, comparing them to the modern crowds, not only had they not seen it so much back then, but also there was usually more of a frantic pace going on. It's like, oh shit, it's 3 wild minutes like Tornado went through instead of, God damn, they're setting up a lot of shit and hitting each other. You got some popcorn over there, hun? So then, what was next? Kevin gave Sammy a fisherman suplex buster off the top rope through a table and got a 2 count. At 2, 4, 5, 7, about 6 tables in. Sammy pulled out more chairs and then a barbed wire wrapped chair. Where then at Sammy drop toe holded Owens face first into the barbed wire wrapped chair, which Kevin sold brilliantly, screaming, but there's no blood, Jerry. There's no one is bleeding. He just went face first into barbed wire, allegedly. Trademark. So what, and why is the chair wrapped in barbed wire? Is that to discourage people from sitting during their match? Well, we don't want to sit down. We better give them a standing ovation. And then Sammy stacked chairs up and made a bridge with the barbed wire chair in the middle and gave Kevin a Blue Thunder bomb onto the barbed wire chair stacked on the chairs. 2 count. And then finally, Kevin ended up putting a chair around Sammy's neck and running him into the post a couple times and powerbombing him on the apron. But then Sammy fought back, so Kevin powerbombed him on the apron again and then rolled him in and covered him 1, 2, 3. All that shit that they had done, and it didn't build to a Peter Northish explosion, rather than Sammy went down with a fight and a slight whimper. I would have liked a match better than a 30-minute long collection of stunts involving doing as much damage to various pieces of office furniture as they possibly could. Am I being too critical?
Maybe, maybe not. I mean, this was clearly a very... Is it self-indulgent if it's 2 people? is it more than self-indulgent if it's
no,
2 people?
it's duo indulgent.
You know, and I'm not saying there aren't tons and tons of fans who like it, but it's hard for me to watch something when, you know, these 2 guys are best friends who just love doing this shit to each other. And they've been doing it and trying to do it for... I mean,
20 fucking years.
I'd say it's close to 20 years now, yeah. So, you know, the fans were really into it. I was surprised when Owens went over, although there was obviously a bit of an afterbirth that explained, didn't explain why Randy Orton doesn't wear clothes, but it explained why he went over.
Well, yes, and they've got, and Owens is doing some great work. Sammy is always a guy that can lose in these situations, and it still doesn't hurt him because they like him as the underdog. And if the underdog wins all the time, then he's not an underdog. And, well, then what would Polly Purebred do? Much less Simon Bar Sinister. How's he gonna support himself? What are you people trying to fucking pull here? Anyway, so Owens went to get more heat on Sammy, because he's nefarious that way, when suddenly music played and here came Randy Orton.
Played by Wally Cox. just to finish what we were doing.
Doom, 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 doom. All right. So Orton comes out and gets in the ring, and they have the big face-off, him and Kevin, and they get in a fight, and Randy hits the RKO on Kevin. Boom, and gets a big ovation, and the Randy chants, and Orton goes for the big kick to the head, but the agents and security kind of ran in right as Owens rolled out, disoriented and fucking taking off, heading for higher ground, as they say, and then Orton RKO'd every single member of the security force who were kind enough to come at him one at a time and then stop, throw up their hands, and remain immobile while they were delivered their punishment.
The first guy was the best because he went down and he was kind of curled up in an unnatural position, and then he stayed there like that. Everyone else like took it in and rolled out of the ring.
Yeah, well, also, do you know why the first guy was the best?
Why?
Because the first time you see it, you might know that it's coming, but you can't visualize it. The second time you see it, you start noticing things. When you do something 5 or 6 times, that's when people can pick up on if there's holes, if there's daylight, if there's anything untoward about it, or the exaggerated amount of cooperation from the folks taking it. They're all trying to get over and do the best, job they can, but as a result, when you repeat something like that, you give the people more chance to see through it. That's the succinct version of what I was trying to say. In some fashion.
With the Randy Orton return, and I get the idea that there's a philosophy that wrestlers should always be seen in their wrestling gear, and Jade returned earlier in her dominatrix gear. But would it have made a bigger impact if Randy Orton showed up in street clothes? For this kind of thing where I'm showing up to kick the shit out of the guy who injured me? He was dressed for a match. And again,
yes,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, I was about to say, and remember now, he is one of the original Rip Rogers disciples. And Rip was not only a body guy, but always like, go out and look your fucking best. And fucking wear your gear and show the fucking body off. And Orton looks phenomenal. And I think he looks more of a star that way than he does in the normal street clothes that he wears. Now, he could dress up in street clothes like Seth Franklin Rollins, custom-made shit, and look like Elvis or whatever, but that's not Orton. So I think in his case, it doesn't work for everybody, but in some people's like his, I think it works better if you always see him in his gear as a fucking giant fucking jacked up wrestler. But now if he changes and starts teaming up with Don Fargo and they go to the Hells Angels or the Chain Gang, then he can just come right in wearing what he's wearing.
They should do some kind of angle where all the heels get together, women and men, and beat the shit out of the sound guy, who always has a heads up who's going to run in and hurt them.
You're in on it, you son of a bitch.
Of course, you know what that sound means. We need to take a short time out, and we weren't planning on it, so we're completely out of wits, and we don't know what we're doing. And when you're like that, when everything's just hitting you hard and you don't know what to do, and there's still so much wrestling to watch, sometimes you just want to sit back and have a drink. A nice classy drink, a nice classy wine, and here to tell you about that, Mr. Class himself, Jim Cornette.
That's right, because we're classy winos, I'll have you know, and we're out of wits right now, is what we are apparently, Brian. Is that what you're saying? I'm still in possession of my wits. You know why? Because I can tell you where the smart people are going to get their wine these days. Have you heard about our new friends over at nakedwines.com? Nakedwines.com. More on that in a minute, why that is the way. But Brian, you know, I've told you this. Stacy is a more accomplished connoisseur of wine. She knows the reds from the whites and the rosés from the Perignors and things and such of that nature. And, you know, I'm just... give me the standard little sparkling martini and Rossi. You know, that's about as far as I go. So whenever she tells me to go out and get wine, I walk in the store is what I do. and I'm staring at the giant wall of wine. I have no idea what's what. I don't know whether to whine my ass or scratch my watch. Have you ever had this feeling, or are you a connoisseur of the vino?
Suzanne knows her stuff. I'm not really as knowledgeable as her, but she loves wine, and she was extremely happy when a package from Naked Wines recently arrived, and we were so happy we got naked.
Well, there you go. And see, that's part of it, because once you can get them a couple of drinks in them, boy, I'll tell you what.
Well, no, that's not what I was saying. No, that wasn't what. It wasn't induced by the alcohol. It was the happiness with the arrival. We don't want to say
that the alcohol brought from Naked Wines. But the point being, you don't have to worry about all that stuff now, picking out the wines. And you see, obviously, we're saying the wives like the wines or know the wines better than we do. So leave it to the experts, because the people at Naked Wines, apparently they directly connect you to the world's finest independent winemakers. Now, you've seen the where the winemakers, they stomp the grapes in the big vats, right? Well, since they're indie winemakers, there's barbed wire wrapped around their feet, and they're jumping off scaffolds to stomp the grapes for the wine. But you can get award-winning wine, folks, delivered straight to your door with nakedwines.com, because like we said, they've been around 15 years. They fund over 90 independent winemakers. They got no commitments, no membership fees. You can pause or cancel anytime if you've got a delivery coming up, but whoops, I forgot I'm going on vacation that week, or I've got to report back to my parole officer to serve the rest of that time. You can put the thing on pause. Well, that happens to everybody sooner or later.
That may be a very, 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 very small part of the audience. Let's talk about the people that come home.
We want to connect with everybody.
Let's connect with the people that get off the train after a hard day's work and they just want to go home and see their wife, see their family, and sit down and enjoy a nice glass.
And get snookered. And I'll tell you what, there's where Naked Wines comes in.
Enjoy with class at a classy speed a nice glass of wine.
Yes, boy, I'll tell you what, and you'll have class all over the place. Class, broken glass, and everything. No, if you drink out of plastic cups, it's easier though, folks, because Naked Wines is going to connect the winemakers and the wine drinkers directly, allowing for vineyard to your door delivery at up to 60% off what you would pay in the store, by cutting out the traditional retail middlemen, the people that drive from house to house in those big panel trucks with bottles of wine in the back. They got to take their cut, and that's where you're spending your money, folks. So to cut that out. There'll be no people coming to your house in panel trucks with wine in the back of them anymore. Instead, it'll be the folks from Naked Wines, and you'll know when they get to your porch, because men or women, they're going to be naked, because that's the trademark of Naked Wines.
No, it's not the trademark, and no one will be. First of all, I don't even know how that would work, but no one will be delivering the. They're
actually allowed to. They're allowed to take their clothes off in the truck and then just hop out naked right in front of your house. They don't have to walk down the street.
They certainly aren't, and you do not have to worry about a nude-free show. You will just have to worry about where you're going to put these wine glasses. Do you have the proper...
Depending on the driver, some people look forward to the shows. It's about 50-50, maybe 60-40, folks. You're going to get what you wanted.
There is no nudity applied, but again, there will be someone to deliver this wonderful wine right to you, wine that you choose, the wine that is right for you, from our friends at Naked Wines.
That's right, and it's been stomped by naked people, folks.
Well, no,
over there.
Again,
as a matter of fact,
no.
Also, there's a place, if you go to the Naked Wines headquarters, they have a gift shop where they have videos of the naked girls stomping on this wine.
No, it's Naked Wines. If that was the case, it would be nudist wines. That's not what this is. You don't have to worry about anyone being in any state of undress while your wine is prepared. Just worry about the class and the taste. Ask yourself, what would Nick Bockwinkel drink?
Wait a minute.
Do that.
Do you want them stomping on the grapes with their old dirty shoes, or do you want them the nice bare feet like Tony Atlas would want?
There's a difference in a naked foot and a naked everything.
Well, then how far up are you willing to go?
Back to you, Jim.
Well, folks, right now you can head over to nakedwines.com/JCE and you click enter voucher. Boy, this is certainly specific instructions. Click enter voucher and put in my code JCE for both the code and the password. But now here, once you go through all of that, and I'll tell you in a minute, so get your pen and pencil and paper ready. You're going to get 6 bottles of wine for just $39.99, and shipping is included. You can't get 6 bottles of Ripple for $40 these days. Boy, I tell you can get your wife and the guy next door's wife and the guy down the street's wife schnookered with 6 bottles of wine for just $39.99 with shipping included. nakedwines.com/JCE. Click enter voucher and put in my code JCE for the code and the password. And it's worth it because you're saving depending on your state or general geographic locale, you could be saving $100 on 6 bottles of wine with that type of pricing. How are they allowed to do this, Brian?
That's a wonderful deal for the listeners, and I think they should take advantage of that. Remember, this is wine that is amazing. You will love it. It is Naked Wines, directly for you. And one more time, what's that promo code and those very distinct directions?
Yes, nakedwines.com/JCE. Click enter voucher, put in my code JCE for both the code and the password. 6 bottles of wine, $39.99 with the shipping included. And it would be nice if you do tip the young lady that might bring it to your door naked. I don't think you have to tip the guy. He enjoys it, you know.
No, well, first of all, I don't even know what any of this means, but there will be no one that has nothing to do with Naked Wines. They are not the courier. They are just the supplier of the finest wines for you at a great price, especially if you're a listener of this show. Promo code JCE, that password, and is the password, I should say. And
yes. And a lot of these delivery people are working their way through film school, and they need the extra tip. Well, so they will occasionally, they'll at least, strip down to the waist.
Again, no, but I'm trying so hard, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get back to the Elimination Chamber. Welcome, Naked Wines. We're very happy to have you on board. And Jim, some people think The Rock drinks before he goes out. I don't know what's going on. Let's go back to the Elimination Chamber.
All right, speaking of being in on it, should we cover the men's Elimination Chamber contest at this point?
This was the main event match for Elimination Chamber, the men's match, where we were not only promised this match with big stars, but obviously a big post-match with Cody Rhodes and The Rock of some sort, so let's talk about it.
Well, yeah, and we weren't promised a post-match. We were promised that Rock and Cody would interact, and we found out as we went along that it apparently was going to be after this match, because there wasn't nothing left. But the men's Elimination Chamber featured Logan Paul versus Damian Priest versus CM Punk versus John Cena versus Drew McIntyre versus Seth Franklin Rollins. And in all honesty, Priest still ain't quite there. And they're trying, and he's trying. And it just, something's happening. He might be, a little too flowery sometimes when he does the jump down, spin around, and slap my leg and nail you type of thing. He's trying a little too hard with that prettiness. Maybe, I don't know. Something's going on. But everybody else you could buy as being the winner of this thing, because of the star power, the way that they've been presented, their current positions, and everybody had an issue with each other pretty much going in. And then Cena's got the story of his retirement tour and everything. So that's what I was saying earlier in the show. There's a reason for these individual people to be mad at each other. They didn't fall into the trap of when it's a multiple man match, like 5 or 6 guys, that there's more baby faces than heels. And you put the baby faces in the position of having to fight each other, and try to rip each other's eyeballs out and not even have an issue with each other. That wasn't the case here because everybody had a goddamn issue. And they're all either heels or shades of something, right? And then Logan Paul, who came out waving the American flag after they'd already booed the national anthem. He is a fucking, what a heel. And again, all you have to do nowadays is wave the American flag and you're automatically a heel everywhere except Russia. They like us now over there. But again, as I was saying earlier, even though there's issues amongst all of these guys why they should be fighting as well as fighting for the title shot, and you got a couple pretty much full-fledged heels in there, it's 6 sides against each other in an enclosed environment as they feed them in gradually, but it becomes a series of moves. It doesn't have the drama of a match, a contest, a fight between 2 opposite sides or 2 entities where you have the dramatic ebbs and flows and you can lose yourself in the art of wrestling. It's more like, oh shit, who's going to dive off the top of the pod? And Punk's a great storyteller, and he and fucking McIntyre were incredible, and Rollins can do quite well, and Cena has the experience to be a storyteller, and hopefully Logan Paul can be told stories because he's still green, but you know what I'm saying. It's just stunts of people doing things to each other involving the cage and the pods and the lions and tigers and bears.
You know,
so
I would typically agree with you, but it didn't bother me at all here. I thought the match was good because of the story. You know, who's getting the title shot? We assumed it was Cena, but as the match was happening, I'm like, well, you know, Punk is an interesting thing in this whole thing. And, you know, the anticipation of when guys are going to come out, the way Rollins and Priest went at it in front of Punk, you know, that was pretty cool. Actually, just seeing him root on both guys, kicking the shit out of each other. So I thought there was enough little anticipation. And like you said, other than Priest, who was in this match, but really doesn't have I guess they're trying to do something with him and McIntyre, but everyone had something going on. Even McIntyre, the way he was eliminated, it was all part of, the storytelling with these guys in this match was really good, I think.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is the issue amongst the guys I liked. I know they work hard and all the shit looked good, but again, the Elimination Chamber, to me, we've gone so far into, is this game show on Nickelodeon, you know, gone wrong? Is this a modern day rollerball? The pod opens when the overhead shot and the horn sounds and did you see the fan camera footage of Punk's? They've got like a couple of fluorescent lights in the top of the pods, right, that the guys are in. And every time somebody would hit or jostle whatever Punk's light was falling, and he was picking it up before he got in the match, he was picking it up and sticking it back in the socket. And then they'd hit it and fall down again. He was put it back up again. I mean, it's a little too much for me. I'm sorry, just, you know, good Lord, just because we have all that money doesn't mean that we have to do all the special effects. Nevertheless, Drew and Seth started us off, and they kicked the shit out of each other, and then here came Priest, and he beat up Seth and Drew, but then they stopped him. And I'm blowing through this like this, and then we'll talk about the general analysis, but you can't really, you know, jot down the high points or call a blow by blow on this thing because it's just, boom, and it takes a while because of the time for everybody to come in. Logan Paul, number 4. And he does his shit. And then finally, number 5, it was down to Cena and Punk, and it was Cena. And he gets the big pop you would expect. And he got the biggest comeback so far. He came out Seth and Priest and Logan Paul and hit the AA on LP, as they say, the attitude adjustment on Logan Paul, but Drew hit Cena with the kick and went for the cover, and Priest got Drew from behind and rolled him up in kind of a little crucifix, 1, 2, 3. And as you said, they're trying to, and they have set something up with Drew and Priest, but it seemed sudden. It almost seemed like one of the, the junior heavyweights, as they used to say, stealing something real quick, instead of the Drew's, because Drew got his elimination in the Rumble stepped on, didn't he? And now he gets fucking crucifix from behind. Boom, 1, 2, 3. No wonder he's feeling like he's being screwed.
I was going to say he needed a new grievance, and now he's got it. And he's great with the facial expressions too. When he has to express, I can't believe this happened to me now. I can't believe I'm out of here already. I thought that was great.
Well, but you know what they say about grief. You can't grievance forever. But then, as Drew was shocked, he got up and fucking ran over and fucking Claymore kicked Priest and knocked the shit out of him and left, and Logan Paul got up on top of one of the pods and did the frog splash. The frog splash is what he did on Damian Priest and beat him 1, 2, 3. So now there went Drew and there went Priest, and we've still got Punk to go because he was number 6, and he joins Logan Paul and Cena and Seth. And then they get in a daggum fight as Logan Paul and Punk beats up Logan Paul. I think everybody enjoys kind of beating up Logan Paul. And then Punk sees Cena and they have the face-off, and the crowd is up. And what's going to happen? And Seth spoils it and levels Punk. And so then Cena and Seth get in a fight, and they do a big yay boo. Because now they were taking vast majority we're taking Cena's side over Seth in that exchange, even though Seth is still the darling of the fashion set. And Logan Paul broke that up, and Punk hit Logan Paul with the go to sleep, boom, covered him 1, 2, 3, and got a big pop for getting Logan Paul the fuck out of there. So now we were down to Cena and Seth and Punk. And Cena and Punk took Seth out and went back to their face-off. And then Cena offered his hand. Punk came in for a hug. They hugged, and then they got in a fight. Old frenemies, you might say. And they go back and forth, and Cena foils the go to sleep and gets the STF, but Punk reverses to the Anaconda on account of he could do it, the Anaconda Vice. Punk hit a crossbody off the top, but Cena rolled through and gave Punk the attitude adjustment, got a 2 count. This was good shit. Now that it's down to a couple or 3 people, you can get into the turgid, rock-hard meat of the matter. And so Seth buckle-bombed Cena into the cage and ran him through the pod door. And then went back to Punk and pedigreed him and got a 2 count. Punk hit the elbow off the top rope on Seth, but Seth hit the buckle bomb and the curb stomp on Punk. 2 count. Punk with a go to sleep on Seth, and Seth sold into Cena's attitude adjustment, and then Punk covered him 1, 2, 3. So Seth took the finisher of both the top guys, boom, before it could take him out. And we were about 30 minutes in, which for this thing wasn't the worst thing ever. I've seen worse. And we're down to Punk and Cena. And now you think, okay, how's this go? They've teased it. How's it going to go? Cena offers his hand. Punk takes it and pulls him into the go to sleep and hits it, gets a 2 count. But their Punk was opportunistic at that point. And then Cena hit a surprise attitude adjustment and got a 2 count. And then Punk kicked Cena off, but Punk's head was over the bottom rope as he turned around and was selling up, and Seth was still on the outside and ran down the apron or the ramp or whatever they call it and hit the curb stomp on Punk on the hard rampway, and Cena pulled him into the ring and got the STF, and Punk passed out. And a referee rang the bell because of Seth again. We still got that. We still want to see that fucking match. Seth and Punk, and he caused Punk to lose this thing. And you could even say at this point, Cena was still a Raven babyface because the little detail that Punk had earlier taken his handshake and jerked him into his finish. So why shouldn't Cena have jerked Punk into his after he got curb stomped? You hear me what I'm telling you, Brian?
I hear you. A lot of fans jumped on that and said that was the tease that that Cena was about to turn heel, was the idea that he was so opportunistic with the Punk pin.
But it had just happened to him by this guy just moments before. Jerked him right out of a handshake. But again, this stuff, it was very, very... The stories and the interplay and the issues between everybody going in this thing was very well done. And I like what they did. I guess the best way to say it is the atmosphere in which they're doing it has gotten a tad ridiculous. Maybe that's the best way to
I thought the
say it.
Cena and Punk stuff was great.
Yes, because we got down to nut-cutting time, as they used to say. Mama Cornette never said that. She was not an advocate of the cutting of nuts of any description. But speaking of nuts, we get back to this. Cena has won this thing. Cena has won the Elimination Chamber and it will go on to face Cody at the big WrestleMania extravaganza. And they did the replays of the match and the finish and the celebration there. And then boom, Cody music hits. And Cody comes to the ring, and they're Cody and Cena. Couple different generations, but the guy in the company. And they're, Cody's gesturing you and me at WrestleMania, and Cena is, and they shake hands. Looks like it's going to be a friendly contest, Brian. And then suddenly, The Rock's music hits. And you look, and it ain't The Rock, it's Travis Scott. And with his own title belt, and apparently coming to the ring accompanied by some of his own shitty music. If this was his music, I don't really care to see any more of Travis Scott. But it didn't look like that he was bringing the house down in the Toronto Sky Dome either. Until after a bit of milking, the Rock stepped out, and then I thought you're biased, but tell me what you think. Was The Rock's ovation kind of muted because they had seen Travis Scott there and they thought they were being fucking zoomed somehow?
I thought it was a little bit, but I don't know if that was the cause. I think it's a bit of a misstep. I understand leaning into celebrity, and Travis Scott wants to wrestle. And they're WWE.
He wants to wrestle?
And WWE's all about, TKO's all about embracing celebrity. But this isn't Mike Tyson and this isn't Dennis Rodman. Like, this is not someone who all of America knows. And it just seemed ridiculous that he was a part of this whole thing.
Yeah, well, standing in the ring during an angle, which we'll get to in a minute, and trying to get physical. I think, did I see footage? Did he slap Cody in the ear?
Well, I saw it when it happened, and then we'll talk later on about the press scrum, what was said about it, but it appears he slapped Cody in the face, and it appears The Rock told him, you better get blood on your hands. And he did. He took The Rock at his word, and he actually hit Cody. If I was Cody, I can't wait for my fucking receipt. Oh, my God.
No, fuck, on his eardrum, he might have got the blood from. He slapped him in the ear from if I was been Cody, I said, fuck it, I'd have got up and made Rock knock me out again after I killed that son of a bitch. But nevertheless, so point being, we're getting ahead of ourselves. The Rock came out with Travis Scott and his Mark belt. And they took forever to get to the ring, and there was a lot of milking of this. And The Rock tried to lay down the premise again, where, I want to open my arms, and Cody Rhodes will come into my arms, and I will embrace him as his brother and my brother, and we're all brothers. And just in return, I want Cody's mind and soul. And this got to did you hear? It wasn't. They didn't rock the house with it, but the crowd was starting to what The Rock. And it not in places it was.
I actually didn't hear that. I didn't notice that.
There was a bit of them starting to what The Rock, not in places designed to be whatted. It was like the Who's in Whoville. It was faint, but it was there, and it was starting to get bigger. I think that's why he switched up gears. But the point, if the answer is yes, then Cody will live forever. And if it's no, then tonight the dream dies again. And the people didn't respond to that. He was obviously talking about Dusty because he has a weight belt with the date of Dusty's death and Cody's soul written on it. Rock loves visual aids, and I mean, they are quite good. But so I was getting the impression from this, because nobody is screaming at Cody, no, don't do it, no. It like they would have in previous generations when a babyface would have to make a choice at a crossroads. And I don't think they've wanted to, the fans I'm talking about, I don't think they've liked the pitch of this. I don't think they liked when it came up to begin with. I don't think they wanted to see Cody involved in this. And then when Cody milked it, I don't think they've wanted to see Cody seriously considering this, which is the way it's been portrayed, that he would be seriously considering it. And
considering what, though? That's my whole point. Considering what?
Well, considering this, the idea of selling out to the man and becoming The Rock's puppet is what's implied with "I want your soul." But again, it's such a nebula. I'll give you everything you ever dreamed of if you'll just go in the sauna with me on Thursdays. What
does he have to do differently than what he's doing right now to sell his soul to The Rock and be his champion?
That has not been delineated as to how he would have to modify his behavior, which is another one of the reasons why I don't think people have been into this except to see it over with. And that's why when Cody finally says, I want it all, Rock. I want it all. I want all the fame and fortune and the blah, blah, blah. But my soul no longer belongs to me. Why? Because I've already given it to this ring and these people. And they say, hey, Rock, go fuck yourself. And they didn't even bleep fuck, because it's a premium live event. A premium fucking live event is the way they ought to sell them now. And he got a giant pop with that. Hey, Rock, go fuck yourself, because that's what they wanted to. What is my number one rule of a babyface promo, going back to anything I've ever said in public about it? The babyface at some point needs to say what the fans want to say about a guy or to a guy or about a situation or whatever, but they don't have the platform. And a lot of people have been wanting to say, hey, Rock, go fuck yourself. Yeah. They love that. And then The Rock kind of stood there somewhat dumbfounded. And that's when Cena comes up and he hugs Cody. They're laughing about what he said to The Rock, and he hugs Cody, and they're all smiles and everything. And then they get and again, Brian, I wonder if they have those things in the WWE called production meetings. The things we were talking about recently that AEW doesn't have because their show isn't finished in time for them to have one. I wonder if WWE has production meetings. Or do you think the handheld camera guy is just he's Nostradamus. He knows exactly where to be to get the over-the-shoulder facial shot of the change in expression that can then be cut to the shot of The Rock where he gives the signal and Cena frowns, and that frown is turned upside down when he stands up and he kicks Cody Rhodes right in the balls. That, again, they're cutting back and forth of a live event that is happening in real time, and they're getting close-ups of people's facial expressions. This is goddamn major league shit. Kevin Dunn was in summer school, maybe when they taught that stuff, or he was in detention or whatever. But that's what happened is as soon as Cody said, "Go fuck yourself" to The Rock, Cena hugs him for it and looks at The Rock. The Rock gives the signal, and Cena stands up and kicks Cody right in the balls. And then Cena grabs Cody's watch, I believe. Who was it? Was it Michael Cole or somebody said he's got brass knucks? He obviously picked up a watch. You could almost see Timex on it. But he picked up the watch and put it on like knucks and punches Cody and hits him with the microphone, and then hits him with a title belt, and hits him again with a title belt. And by now, Cody's bleeding. And Cena rips Cody's shirt off, and he chokes him with his tie. Brian, do you think they thought to fire him like they did Danielson with the choking with the NXT announcer or whatever with the tie that time?
We got a fuck. The commentator said shit, and then we got this. I think it's a whole new era.
I thought you meant the commentators actually took a shit. And then the rapper, as we mentioned, tried to do something and was very awkward and potatoed Cody. And then The Rock whipped Cody with the weight belt, and then they stood on him. And the one thing, again, there's enough attention to detail in this and with The Rock that it's something that they didn't want to do, and they made the choice rather than nobody thinking about it. Nobody tried to fucking stop this. You've got, in what other business, anywhere, Hollywood to fucking Manhattan, Wall Street, do you have a member of the board of directors of a company beating up one of the most valuable employees of the company, and nobody else of any kind of goddamn standing in the company is even trying to get in to separate him and help save it? No, please, let's not hurt Cody. He has to main event a $100 million show in 6 weeks. If there was some effort, it would be nice. But it went for quite a while because the final boss, I believe, likes being the final boss. But now we got John Cena in the grip of the corporate puppet masters. And before we get to my thoughts on that, this angle in your mind.
I think the moment was exceptional. From the go fuck yourself to The Rock standing there, to the Cena hug, and Cena's face. This face that we've seen smiling for years. All of a sudden, he turned into a cop who's been on the beat for way too long. His face dropped. And again, they shot it well, but he did great. The Rock doing the signal.
So somebody on Twitter said Jim Varney has turned into a sullen bastard.
The Rock doing the cutthroat signal was perfect. It was just vicious the way he did that. And it was great. I agree with you. No one ran in to make a save. I know Triple H can't get physical, but he could be at ringside ordering people to save Cody. Something. I didn't like the idea that no one saved Cody, and, that's the way the show ends, with them standing over him. With Cena turning here, potentially you also give him a reason to turn back at the end of his year, because he gets fed up with The Rock. Because I can't imagine he's going to retire as a heel. That would be the most stunning thing of all, I think.
Yeah.
And obviously he's sick of Make-A-Wish, as the other big takeaway. No, I thought
well, now he's going to start another organization called Take-A-Wish. He wants some back.
That's funny. They should do.
We're going to have to go to his place and start doing shit for him.
Cody, the only way you're going to beat me at Mania is if you make a wish. But I think the angle was great. I think the moment was great. I wouldn't compare it to the NWO, which a lot of people have done, the Hogan turning heel and joining with Hall and Nash. There, the reaction was very different. And although Cena's been a babyface forever, although you got to see him as a heel, obviously, he's been a babyface forever. It's different than when Hogan turned. I wouldn't compare the two, and I wouldn't compare the visceral reaction. Also, he's turning kind of under the Rock as opposed to Hogan turning to be revealed as the leader of something.
Well, and besides that, Hogan was reviving his career at that point, whereas Cena was already hot and he was about to leave anyway. And that's what I agree. And again, I said earlier, I believe I did in the course of this diatribe, The Rock I've always thought was a great performer. As I think probably said he could come out and read the phone book. But lately, he's been reading the same page of the phone book twice, or he came out on NXT just not knowing what was going on, and he seemed somewhat full of himself as a heel on camera, that's fine, but also quite a bit full of himself off camera as, is this another Russo-esque type of thing where I invented air and water and I have an opinion on everything and I'm making everything better because I'm in it. And the way that they got here, I know everybody said, well, just enjoy the ride The Rock has taken you on. He insinuated himself into this thing, kind of switched back and forth a couple of times between are we supposed to like you or not, then established that we're not supposed to like him on TV, but we're supposed to like him more in real life because he's doing such a great job of being an asshole on television, and turn John Cena heel. If they were going to turn John Cena heel, I'm not sure they needed The Rock in the middle of this. It was done brilliantly. But also, to me, business-wise, I'm thinking, and I'm not even talking about what's best to make the best show or, what will win angle of the year. But they've got a lifelong babyface, the most popular guy that they had at one point for a 10-year-long period, John Cena, who's announced he's going to make one more appearance in 30 cities or whatever. And some of those are going to be on premium live event. And the kids have always loved him, and as a chant of merchandise, and he's taking a farewell lap. If this, I would have said, yeah, go for it, wholeheartedly and without reservation. If they hadn't already said he's only going to be here for another fucking 30 shows this year and he's done. A turn this big with somebody of that stature, you could get a few years out of it, but they've got a limited amount of time. Are they losing millions of dollars in merchandise sales? Do they think the people are smart and it doesn't matter? But does the 8-year-old kid that they might have caught this time around because of their parents, do they want the John Cena? Is it hustle, loyalty, and respect, or is it hot lesbian action with The Rock? I don't know what the fuck's going on. They've turned a guy that's almost done. I guess is my thing is, would they come out as well or ahead if they had just had the John Cena retirement tour and sold all that merchandise, sold all those tickets, seen one more time, instead of doing an angle that would set him up as a top heel normally for the next 2 or 3 or 4 years? Your thoughts?
I mean, that's more of a question for you because you are really more the expert with this stuff. That's the question. You're doing the Cena heel turn now. We heard from a lot of people that are like, you see it all gave us this. And you're right, it's going to run out pretty soon. It would have been a lot different if he had turned in 2015 or something. It would have been a lot different. It would have been under Vince too. But it's still big and it has a big impact. Again, he's kind of the champion for The Rock, which is interesting. Cena is big enough to turn heel and be his own guy. It's an interesting role for him to have right now, and that is what it is. It's a role where he's going to kind of be working for the corporate Rock, I guess.
And he's a movie star, too. He doesn't need the auditions.
Obviously, The Rock can't work. I don't even know if The Rock could bend over and touch his toes at this point without going to the hospital and needing surgery or something. So it's interesting that they're going to try to incorporate him as this heel overboss, but he can't really do anything in the ring beyond injuries or anything. And the real reason why the injuries would matter is they would screw up his films. And that's the priority, not this. So it's going to be very interesting. I think the moment and the angle was great. For everyone who tweeted at or something, you need to apologize to The Rock. You need to get off his dick. He's not going to buy you a fucking truck unless he can film it and unless you're famous already. Seriously. The way it was set up to this, like, see, it made complete sense that he was incoherent in the ring on NXT. No, it doesn't. I'm starting to wonder if he's drinking when he comes out, because he's drinking during the scrum. The angle was great. The moment was great. Let's see where they go with this. But don't try to sell me on everything making sense or being good up to this point. The reaction he's come out to the last couple of times has told the story.
You can get the murderer in a fucking murder mystery without the fucking story leading up, and it being an exciting finish without the story leading up to it making any sense. If you pick it apart, well, what about all these loopholes? The guy couldn't have, he was in Phoenix the whole day the murder happened. But it does. The point is, it's a good fucking deal that it was executed exactly as they wanted it to be done, and the people reacted to it live, and they've been talking, positive or negative or indifferent, they've been talking about it ever since. But it started off a little shady, and I think they polished it based on what was being talked about was going wrong.
Based on the way you're reacting, do you think it's crazy they're going to have Cena as a heel for his last year?
Would I say crazy or just, I don't know. I don't know, if that's a thing that they should have done or not.
It's probably something.
And again,
something he wanted to do. He's probably gonna have a great time doing it.
Well, yeah, because he'll have fun, because he don't give a shit. He's done at the end of the year, and it's not like John's a guy that takes, he's not Bruno in terms of taking it that seriously that he would always be a babyface. I think he'll drink wine around children, but I get, that's the thing. I'm not saying that he doesn't want to do it. I'm just saying if I was running the business and what would I get the most out of, I don't know that it needed to be done at this point. Or whether he should have been allowed to go ahead and ride off into the sunset after having sold $17 million worth of merchandise or whatever.
It'll be interesting, too, because one of the things we anticipated was all the merch for the goodbye tour, like Derek Jeter coming to every stadium for the last time. Cena was going to go to all these different places. The final time, it'll be the last time here t-shirt in every single town. I guess they still could do it. They still may do it.
But now the people are going to be saying, yeah, good riddance.
Or they, for the first time, will ever do heel Cena merchandise now. I mean, it's a very interesting thing. And, you say that a lot of guys are kind of riding that wave where they're heels or baby faces based on a situation. This is clearly someone being a heel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he absolutely, he looked at a guy and kicked him in the balls at the behest of another man. Or another person. It wasn't in a sexual way.
No. Man, the way his face dropped, that was the best that's the best acting he's ever done. That was amazing. And again, The Rock, the viciousness with which he delivered the cutting of the throat, the whole way that was done was perfect. And they shot it well. If it was AEW, we'd see Christopher Daniels punching himself in the head. That was the Elimination Chamber and the big moment everyone's been wanting to hear your thoughts on, the John Cena heel turn.